A monster EF-3 tornado tears through Illinois, and right now, in the hours after it happened, most of the country still has no idea what just hit this state. Not a storm warning flickering on a weather app. Not a close call. A confirmed EF-3 tornado, winds screaming at up to 165 miles per hour, ripped straight through a city of 12,000 people. And the story unfolding from the rubble is one that reveals something deeply uncomfortable about where we live and what we think we're safe from. Illinois just shattered its tornado record for the year, by a margin that should alarm every single person who lives between the Rockies and the Appalachians. June, the most dangerous month on the meteorological calendar, had barely started when this outbreak hit. So here's the question you need to sit with right now. If a state that most Americans picture as flat farmland and deep dish pizza has become the tornado capital of the United States, what does that mean for everyone who lives there and everyone who still thinks they know where the real danger zone is? The afternoon of Thursday, June 11, 2026, started like 1,000 other June days across northern and central Illinois. Hot, humid, the kind of thick, heavy air that sticks to your skin and makes you want to stay inside with the blinds drawn. People in Streator were doing ordinary things, picking kids up from school, running errands, finishing the last hours of the workday. Nobody looked at the sky and thought, "This is the day." But meteorologists watching radar screens across the region were seeing something that made their stomachs drop. A line of supercell thunderstorms was organizing across the region, massive rotating storm systems the size of small counties, each one carrying the exact atmospheric ingredients needed to spin a tornado out of thin air. These were not ordinary summer storms. These were the kind of systems that meteorologists circled on weather maps weeks in advance, that prompted emergency managers to quietly check their alert systems before the workday was done. The Storm Prediction Center had flagged the region for a high risk of severe weather. The atmosphere was primed. It was loaded. All it needed was a trigger, and by late afternoon, it had found one. By late afternoon, the National Weather Service had issued tornado warnings across a wide swath of the state. Alerts were pinging on phones. Television stations were interrupting programming. Some people were paying attention. Some of them were not. And in Streator, Illinois, a quiet city sitting roughly 80 miles southwest of Chicago, the storm wasn't a warning on a screen anymore. It was on the ground. It was moving. And it was headed directly toward homes where people were going about a normal Thursday afternoon, with no way of knowing that the next few minutes would change their lives forever. By the time the sun set on June 11th, the National Weather Service confirmed at least 7 tornado touchdowns across their Chicago area of responsibility. Preliminary surveys suggested the total could climb as high as 10. Hundreds of thousands of customers across Illinois and Indiana lost power. Dozens of flights into and out of Chicago's airports were canceled or delayed. And in one corner of LaSalle County, 11 homes were destroyed or heavily damaged. 4 people were rushed to hospitals, and a storm chaser helped pull a man out of a collapsed house with his bare hands. But here's what nobody told you about why Illinois is suddenly the most tornado-threatened state in the country, and why scientists are growing increasingly alarmed about what comes next. To understand why what happened in Streator is so significant, you need to understand what an enhanced Fujita 3 tornado actually is. And most people don't. Not really. The EF scale, enhanced Fujita scale, runs from EF-0 to EF-5. EF-0 is a broken tree branch, maybe a fence blown over. EF-5 is total obliteration, nothing left standing, debris scattered for miles. EF-3 sits in the dangerous middle ground, and it is not something you survive through luck alone. EF-3 winds range from 136 to 165 miles per hour. Put that number in physical terms. The speed limit on an American highway is 65 miles per hour. An EF-3 tornado is moving more than twice that fast, but it is not moving in a straight line. That wind is spinning. It is hitting your house from every direction at once, and it does not slow down until it decides to stop. At 136 miles per hour, a well-built house loses its roof first. The pressure differential between the inside and outside of the structure is so extreme that the roof lifts off like a lid. Then the exterior walls peel away. Then whatever remains gets shredded and turned into flying projectiles traveling at highway speed in every direction. Large trees don't bend in an EF-3. They snap at the trunk, or they get ripped out of the ground entirely, roots and all, and thrown. Vehicles get lifted. Entire train cars have been overturned by EF-3 winds. And here is the number that puts this in true perspective. Only 5% of all tornadoes in the United States ever reach EF-3 intensity or higher. 5%. 19 out of 20 tornadoes are weaker. The one that hits at EF-3 is the one that levels a neighborhood. In Streator, 11 homes were in the direct path. Some were completely destroyed, not damaged, not structurally compromised, but gone down to the foundation. 4 human beings ended up in the hospital. The fact that nobody died in Streator is not a sign the tornado was merciful. It is a sign that a few seconds and a few feet of distance made all the difference between survival and a very different kind of headline. But here's what nobody told you about the city that found itself directly in the crosshairs. Streator, Illinois is not a place most people outside the state could find on a map without help. It sits in LaSalle County, in the north-central part of the state, surrounded by the flat agricultural land that defines this corner of the Midwest. Population, approximately 12,000 people. It is the kind of American city where the school calendar matters more than the stock market, where people know their neighbors by name, where a tornado tearing through the middle of town doesn't just damage property, it damages the social fabric of a place that took generations to build. The city was incorporated in 1868. It has a history of glassmaking and coal mining. It has a downtown, a mayor, a community. And now it has 11 homes that are either gone or barely standing, a closed state highway, and a recovery process that will stretch well beyond the news cycle. Small cities like Streator face a challenge that large metros don't when disaster strikes. Chicago, 80 miles to the northeast, has thousands of contractors, dozens of emergency management professionals, and a financial infrastructure capable of absorbing a major disaster and recovering within months. Streator has a mayor, Tara Bidet, who confirmed publicly that the tornado tore through her city, and a community that will have to rely heavily on state and federal resources to get back on its feet. Federal disaster aid doesn't arrive overnight. Insurance claims take weeks to process. In the meantime, families are living in damaged homes or displaced entirely, and the psychological burden of having survived an EF-3 tornado, that sound, that darkness, those 30 seconds of not knowing, doesn't disappear just because the storm does. Streator sits at the northeastern edge of what scientists now call the expanded tornado alley, and what happened on June 11th is part of a larger pattern that this city, and every city in this state, now has to reckon with. But here's what nobody told you about what 5:52 p.m. actually looked like on the ground. Picture this. It is 5:52 in the afternoon on June 11th, 2026. You are in Streator, Illinois. Maybe you are at home making dinner. Maybe you are pulling into the driveway after work. The sky to your southwest has turned a color that people who have survived tornadoes always describe the same way. Wrong. A greenish yellow that doesn't belong to any normal afternoon sky, heavy and unnatural. Like the light itself knows something you don't. And then the sound comes. People who have lived through a tornado describe it consistently, like a freight train, except louder, except it has no tracks, and it is coming from every direction at once. The tornado that touched down at 5:52 p.m. Central Daylight Time was initially estimated by damage indicators as an EF-2. When NWS survey teams walked the damage path the following day, they upgraded it to EF-3. That distinction matters because it reflects what the physical evidence actually told them. Heavier structural destruction, greater debris spread, damage consistent with the upper range of severe. 11 homes took direct hits. Multiple were completely destroyed. Trees were shredded and crashed onto cars and rooftops. Illinois Route 18 into the city was shut down. Illinois State Police described the damage as heavy. Mayor Badei confirmed what residents could already see with their own eyes. The tornado had cut directly through the heart of the city. 4 people were transported to hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. And then there was the rescue. A storm chaser, someone who was out there capturing footage of the massive twister, came across a man trapped inside a collapsed home. Not sitting dazed on the sidewalk. Trapped inside the rubble of a building that a tornado had folded in on top of him. The storm chaser helped pull him out. Dramatic footage captured the scene. In a story full of terrifying moments, that image stays with you. A stranger in the rubble of someone's home, pulling a man back into the open air. But here is what nobody told you about how massive this outbreak actually was beyond Streator. The Streator tornado was devastating, but it was not alone. By the time the surveys were complete, the NWS Chicago team had confirmed at least 7 tornado touchdowns across their area of responsibility on June 11th, with preliminary assessments suggesting the total could reach 10. This was not a single storm event. This was a coordinated outbreak, multiple supercell thunderstorms moving across the same region in a matter of hours, each one capable of producing a tornado on its own. Northwest Indiana took direct hits too. Porter County received an EF-3 confirmation of its own, meaning 2 EF-3 tornadoes in a single outbreak on a single afternoon across 2 states. Hundreds of thousands of customers lost power before the night was over. ComEd alone reported more than 148,000 customers without electricity by early Friday morning. Dozens of flights at Chicago area airports were canceled or delayed, sending ripple effects through travel schedules across the country. This is what a real outbreak looks like. Not one tornado, one path, one neighborhood. Multiple simultaneous events spread across hundreds of miles, hitting communities that have no geographic relationship to each other, except that the same weather system was passing overhead. A city of 12,000 in Illinois, a county in Indiana, flights stranded in Chicago, all of it in a single evening. If that scope caught you off guard, every subscriber is automatically entered in our monthly giveaway for a branded hoodie. Details in the description. But here is what nobody told you about why Illinois has been here before, and what the long history of tornadoes in this state actually looks like. Illinois has been living with tornadoes longer than most of the country acknowledges, and its record includes events so devastating they rewrote the history books. The deadliest tornado in recorded American history passed through this state. On March 18, 1995, the tri-state tornado crossed from Missouri into southern Illinois and continued into Indiana, killing 695 people and injuring more than 2,000 others. In Illinois alone, the town of Murfreesboro lost 234 residents in a matter of minutes. That tornado traveled 219 miles without lifting, a world record that still stands a century later, and it did the majority of its killing on Illinois soil. It was rated equivalent to an F5, the maximum on the original Fujita scale, but the history didn't stop in 1995. In April 1967, a massive outbreak struck northern Illinois during what NWS Chicago has officially described as northern Illinois' worst tornado disaster. In November 2013, not spring, not June, but November, Another historic outbreak became the fourth deadliest and costliest tornado event in Illinois history, shattering the assumption that the season ends when summer does. And in 2026, Illinois leads the nation. By early June, the state had already confirmed 109 tornadoes for the year, against a historical annual average of around 60. Not 60 for the first half of the year, 60 for the entire year. Illinois hit double its average before peak season arrived. The June 11th outbreak added to that count, and the season was not done adding. But here's what nobody told you about the science behind why June 11th was always possible, and why the atmosphere was essentially waiting for permission to do exactly what it did. To understand why June 11 happened, you need to understand supercells. Most thunderstorms are simply thunderstorms. They build, drop rain and hail, and collapse. A supercell is something categorically different. A supercell is a rotating thunderstorm, a system with an organized, persistent rotating updraft called a mesocyclone that can extend tens of thousands of feet into the atmosphere and sustain itself for hours. The rotation begins with wind shear, a change in wind speed and direction at different altitudes. Near the ground, the wind might be coming from the south at 20 miles per hour. At 5,000 feet, it is coming from the southwest at 50 miles per hour. At 20,000 feet, from the west at 100 miles per hour. That layering of different winds creates an invisible horizontal tube of spinning air in the lower atmosphere. When the powerful updraft of a thunderstorm tilts that spinning tube from horizontal to vertical, you now have rotation inside the storm itself. When conditions tighten further, that rotation descends toward the surface, and when it makes contact, you have a tornado. June is the most dangerous month in the Midwest for exactly this convergence of conditions. By early summer, the Gulf of Mexico is pumping its deepest and warmest moisture northward. The jet stream, the high-altitude river of fast-moving air that organizes and energizes severe weather systems, is still positioned far enough south to inject energy into storm development. The temperature and humidity contrast between the warm, wet air from the south and the cool, dry air descending from the Rocky Mountains is at its most extreme. That contrast is the fuel. Illinois is the combustion chamber. Approximately 54% of all United States tornadoes occur in April, May, and June. For the Chicago region specifically, June averages around 2 significant severe weather days per month, meaning this is not an unusual season. This is the season doing exactly what the season does, just at a frequency and intensity that has been escalating. The June 11 outbreak was not random. It was the atmosphere doing exactly what the atmospheric setup was telling it to do, and it did it across hundreds of miles of the flattest, most unobstructed land in the country, where there are no mountains to break up a supercell and no terrain to slow a tornado once it touches down. When the conditions are right in Illinois, the storm doesn't slow, it accelerates. But here's what nobody told you about what happened in the 48 hours after Streator, because the outbreak was not finished with Illinois. The June 11th event brought at least 7 confirmed tornadoes across Illinois and Indiana, and disrupted hundreds of thousands of lives in a single evening. Then, just 48 hours later, on June 13th, 2026, McLean County in central Illinois got hit again. 5 more tornadoes were confirmed. Winds between 70 and 100 miles per hour were reported across the county. McLean County sits in the heart of the state, a wide-open stretch of central Illinois farmland and small cities that had no natural barrier to shield it from the same atmospheric machinery that tore through Streator 2 days earlier. Less than 2 full days after the Streator EF-3, another section of Illinois was under attack from the same kind of severe weather pattern. 2 separate outbreak events inside of 72 hours. This is not a coincidence. This is not normal, even by the standards of a state that has been seeing more tornadoes than anywhere else in the country all year long. The recovery in Streator is already complicated before this second round of severe weather arrives. 11 homes need to be fully assessed, documented, and either repaired or demolished. 4 people are still recovering from their injuries. The mayor is coordinating with state emergency management. Illinois Route 18 needs to be reopened. Families who watched their neighbors' houses disappear on June 11th are now getting tornado warnings again on June 13th. Small cities take the longest to come back from disasters like this. They lack the contractor base, the insurance infrastructure, and the financial reserves of major metros. Federal disaster aid takes weeks to reach communities. Private insurance claims take longer. And while the paperwork moves at its institutional pace, the season continues. Illinois was already at 109 confirmed tornadoes before peak month arrived. The June 11th and June 13th events are adding to that count. And nobody is certain where the next one lands. But here's what nobody told you about where this is all heading, because the story of June 11th is not finished, and neither is this season. Here is what we know with certainty. Illinois has been hit harder by tornadoes in 2026 than any other state in the nation. The June 11th outbreak delivered at least 7 confirmed tornadoes in a single evening, including an EF-3 with winds up to 165 miles per hour that cut through Streator, Illinois, a city of 12,000 people who did nothing wrong except live in a place the atmosphere decided to visit. We know that Tornado Alley is shifting east, and Illinois is now squarely in its path. We know that the atmospheric conditions that produce violent supercells, deep Gulf moisture, active jet stream, extreme temperature contrast, are becoming more frequent and more intense, not less. We know that June is the peak of the season, and that in 2026, the season had already broken records before peak arrived. We know that McLean County was hit again 2 days after Streator, as if the atmosphere wanted to make its point twice. What we do not know is how many more times this season will produce events like June 11th. We do not know which city is next. We do not know whether the families in Streator who are currently working to rebuild will have their recovery interrupted by another outbreak before the summer is over. The tornado season in the Midwest does not end in June. It runs through July and into August. And in a year when Illinois has already shattered its tornado record months before the season closes, the idea that the worst is behind us is a hope, not a forecast. The atmosphere does not check whether your community has recovered before deciding to send another storm. It does not negotiate with timelines or insurance adjusters or federal aid applications. It builds, it rotates, it descends, and it touches down where it wants. What happened in Streator on June 11th, 2026 was not a freak event. It was not a historical anomaly. It was a warning delivered at 165 miles per hour. And the question this season is raising, loudly, repeatedly, is whether we are listening. Something is still coming. The season is not over. And the next city on the path does not know its name is already in the forecast. If this story is a reminder that a tornado can be on the ground before you finish reading a text message, grab your free disaster preparedness toolkit. The link is in the description. And if you want to understand what the atmosphere is doing to the places we live, subscribe. Because there is more coming, and you need to know about it before it arrives.